I call this Town of Adams Board of Selectmen's meeting to order, Wednesday, June 18th, 2025. This meeting is being recorded. Anyone who would like to videotape this meeting, all or part of it, please inform the chair. Okay. These Board of Selectmen meetings are recorded and televised live on Northern Berkshire Community Television, channel 1303. The next item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Could everyone please stand and join the board in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next, we have approval of minutes, May 28th and June 4th. What is the board's pleasure?
I make a motion to waive the reading of the minutes for May 28th, 2025 and June 4th, 2025 and approve as presented.
Motion by Ann. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Jay. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, unanimous decision. All right, next is public comment. Anyone in the audience would like to address the Board of Selectmen? Yes.
Hi, Sarah Fontaine, Director of the Adams Council on Aging. I'd like to take this opportunity to publicly thank Interim Town Administrator Ken Walto, Select Board Chair John Duval, and Select Board Member Christine Hoyt for their support and advocacy for equitable salary increases for all department heads, both elected and appointed, at the April 17th Board of Selectmen meeting and in the recent budget debates. I would also like to publicly congratulate the 3 elected department heads, Assessor Paula Grover, Treasurer Collector Kelly Weiss, and Clerk Haley Meswar, on their additional 5% salary increases, as they are dedicated municipal servants and valued colleagues. I understand the Finance Committee's explanation to recommend decreasing the salaries for the inspection services, Council on Aging, library, and DPW department heads, that they are not a reflection of the officials' performances, rather an effort to bring salary increases back within policy limits and to not take it personally. That, however, is easier said than done when the article to approve 5% salary increase for 3 elected department heads occurred immediately prior to the article to decrease the salaries for several appointed department heads. To have sat the annual town meeting last night and listened to select board members, finance committee members, and town meeting members approve salary decreases for those department heads, myself included, stung and hurt morale. I thank you for the opportunity to share my statements publicly. Though disappointed, it will not affect the great work we all do on behalf of the residents of Adams and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who would like to address the Board of Selectmen? Yes.
Hello, Kathy Foster. I noticed that you have on the agenda later today ratifying an employee as the code inspector.
Yeah, that will be tabled. We're not going to discuss that this evening.
Okay.
We'll have it, most likely next meeting, we'll have that back to the agenda.
Well, so I was wondering if there were conflict of interest disclosures that you've approved as a board.
Well, the town administrator will discuss that as part of the agenda before we table it.
Today?
Yeah, tonight.
Okay, so I can just get off that topic, but if I have any other questions after that are unanswered?
Yeah, we'll wait till the
Okay.
2 weeks when the actual appointment does happen.
2 weeks, you said?
The next meeting, next board meeting.
Okay. The other thing is, at town meeting last night, there was an amount of money that is said to be encumbered that belongs to the budget of the health department, that Jerry Garner uses it for cleanups. unless there's a contract or some other legal way that it's encumbered, that money should have gone back to free cash every year. And so that amount that's sitting somewhere, God only knows where, I've never seen an accounting of encumbered monies, that money should go to free cash. That's not, like, it's just the way it works. And I just wanted, I wanted to be on record that, maybe it hasn't occurred to you, but maybe it should now. That's all I have to say about it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to address the board? All right. Next is new business. The first item is the Adams ADA Self-Evaluation and Transition Plan presented by BRPC. Ken, did you want to address that?
Yes, the BRPC isn't able to be here tonight, and McKeever, who prepared the plan, we neglected to notify him until it was too late for him to make plans to be here, so I recommend that the board table this to the next meeting. I think we'll be able to present that time.
Okay. Do we have a motion to table?
I'll make a motion to table the Adams ADA Self-Evaluation and Transition Plan presented by the BRPC.
Motion by Ann, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Jay, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, none, unanimous decision. Next is fiscal year 25 and fiscal year 26 shared services agreement with Town of Savoy. Ken?
Sarah will give us a briefing on it.
Okay.
Sarah Fontaine, Council on Aging Director. So in preparing the FY26 shared services agreement with Savoy, I was referencing the FY25 agreement and noticed they had accidentally signed the FY24 agreement again instead of the FY25. So I went to their select board meeting last week, June 10th, and they signed both the FY25 and the FY26 shared services agreement. The only change from each year is last year the shared services agreed upon cost was $10,000 for FY25. For FY26, due to a decrease in their usage numbers to date in FY25, it will be $9,000 instead of $10,000. Does anybody have any questions? And really all we change from year to year is the fiscal year date and then update the amount of the agreement. And that's for services that we only provide typically to Adams residents. So it includes transportation, outreach services, and then any special signups that we reserve for Adams residents, like taxes, tax preparation, and farmers market coupons and things like that. Does anybody have any questions about?
Any questions from the board? Okay, do we have a motion? So we have to approve this, correct?
Yeah, and I have the originals for you guys to sign.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the Adams Council on Aging agreement with the Town of Savoy, which would be at a cost to Savoy of $9,000, down from $10,000 for last year.
Motion by Ann, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Jay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous decision, thank you.
So it's the back page.
Okay. Next is item C, the appointment of myself as alternate delegate. That is also listed under G2 with the actual delegate, so I'm going to cancel agenda item C and we'll cover that under G2. Next is the ratification of the appointment of David Reinmiller to the position of code enforcement officer. Sorry. All right, Ken.
As Chairman Duval mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, I'm recommending that this be tabled to the next meeting. I spoke with town council. Mr. Reinmiller, as you know, serves the town in various capacities, including our lawyer and inspectors on the Board of Health. He's on the planning board, and I believe the zoning board of appeals. That could present him with conflicts of interest, although we think he's the best person for this job, and I heartily recommend his ratification of his appointment. However, I did speak at length with town council today. We sent him all the documentation that Mr. Reinmiller has already put together, that he's filed with Haley, and he given to Bree. So I expect an advisory from our council by the next meeting.
Okay. So our recommendation is the table. What is the board's pleasure?
I make a motion that we table the ratification of the appointment of David Reinmuller to the decision of code and enforcement officer until we hear from our attorneys.
Motion by Ann, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Jay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Unanimous decision. Moving on to item E, under new business, we have recommendation regarding interim coverage of event rental duties at the Greylock Glen Outdoor Center. Ken?
Yes, as you know, we are in a transitional period. I really thank Mike Wynn for being with us via Zoom tonight. Couldn't be here in person. And I'm working with Donna and Bree. One of the things I should tell you, as the Chairman Duval mentioned it to me, I went back and looked at the town charter, and in the absence of the executive director, the town administrator has responsibility for administering town departments, including rental. I went back and looked at it under what the town administrator is required to do under the charter. So that will devolve to me in the absence of having an executive director. Mike knows that Bree has had some experience in event planning, and they met, and then they met with me, and I asked Mike to please write a memorandum, which is in your packet, about how that might happen. This is all, we're talking about interim now here. So Bree would spend some of her time doing event planning and monitoring, and we'll ask Mike to give us a little explanation of how they see this happening, this piece of it.
As interim town administrator Walt said, we're putting together a transition plan where Donna Cecil will take responsibility for many of the oversight of Glen operations. But the one thing that's on my daily task list that I was worried about somebody losing sight of or not having an eye on was the ongoing communication with people who have already booked events with us, or people who are in the process of acquiring events, live events with us, or people who inquired during this transition period that they just had a single point of contact. And we worked with Bree in town hall before I went up to the outdoor center. I know that she has some previous experience with town facilities use process. She's already in point of contact for one of their alcohol licenses if they become necessary. And then she has some experience in the field of the hospitality industry. So I just thought it made sense for her to take on principal point of contact with people hosting or inquiring about events. And that's outlined in my memo from last week.
Anything to add, Bree, or you good?
I'm good, yeah.
Okay.
Any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Any questions from the board?
In the process of, because I had mentioned this to Mike a long time ago when we first started getting people to come up and use the Glen, that we could get a report maybe every week, like even if it's at our meetings, that the selectmen know how many people are using it. So we have some idea. Because, you know, we sort of hear about it at the, oh, well, yeah, we were up at the Glen, we had a nice party. But we would like to know, I know I would, how many times it's being used in the course of a month or so. You know, like,
I think that's a fair aspirational goal. I will be honest with you, with having a part-time town administrator, with me supporting the town administrator's office, the board of selectmen, and now the Greylock Glen as well, that's about 2.5 people's worth of jobs. I cannot promise you that I will have time to pull together a monthly or weekly report, but with that said, I can certainly keep that goal in mind and work towards implementing that and making that part of my
well, in the
reporting.
I have a running tally of events dating back to October 10th, events that have been held in the building, and I can provide that to Bree. I update it as I create folders for the new events.
You don't use any kind of spreadsheet or anything when you're working on listing all your...
It's in a spreadsheet.
Yeah, I'm actually asking Bree.
So I haven't started yet because Mike
Yeah,
is
but
not
when you
here.
do, you should have a spreadsheet of what's coming through that you should be able to share. with us.
And I'm happy to keep that as an aspirational goal.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Just a couple things on my side. First off, I think it's a good idea to keep this within the town itself on the day-to-day rather than having volunteers or paying someone on the outside for some of the events that are already planned. Bree, do you feel like this is something that you can take on right now?
So that's why I'm sort of keeping my eyes specifically on the events part, making sure that we don't lose those because those are really important. I've already started having some communications with folks who have like weddings. And as someone who works in the wedding industry outside of my job here, I understand how important and how timely communication really matters to folks. It's a very stressful time period. If folks want to remember back to whenever they went through that process, if you have. So I, for now, feel that I can take that on in the interim. I don't think it's a sustainable long-term goal. I will certainly be happy to see a new executive director hired, and then I can sort of work to transition that responsibility back over. But in the interim, I'm willing to step into that level of responsibility.
All right, this is the first part. The second part here is, it states in the memo that they recommend on spending at least one day a week up at the center. I'm just wondering logistically, is that feasible for you to continue to do your regular day job on top of this as well? I don't know if there's a plan in place for that or if that's just a recommendation.
Yeah, so Ken and I have begun discussing that matter. It's important that I have some level of visibility up there, so because folks will regularly pop in and look for a tour of this space. Also just to, make sure that I'm keeping up with all of the filing system that Mike has created. With that said, I'm still able to perform a lot of my town hall functions on my computer up there, so I think it'll take me away from phones for one day a week, but I pride myself in my ability of, returning phone calls, so, but I'm gonna sit with Ken next week, and we're going to make a plan that makes sure that my office or our office isn't without coverage. So for example, Mondays and Fridays would not be the ideal day to have me up at the Glen because Ken's out and we don't want to see my office closed altogether. So, I think it's important that I do spend some physical time up there, but I'm not gonna just disappear off into the woods, I promise.
We're kind of feeling our way through this. I will be spending, in fact, I went up last Friday and I shadowed Mike for the afternoon, get a feel for how the place operates and helped set up for a wedding reception the next day. Don and I will we sat today, Don and Mike and I, and kind of strategized about how we go forward with this. And again, this is kind of a learning experience. I talked to Jerry Garner. He's going to be on it with the building systems. I'm going to meet with Bob, the building and ground superintendent. So we'll have more for you, but we will try not to let any of the balls drop here, especially with what Bree is doing. That's the most immediate need.
Good. Yeah, I mean, I definitely want to have some type of coverage up there during the week so that the building can stay open during the week. I think that's a big concern for the community that I've heard multiple times.
Yes, there's...
Yeah, so I apologize, Ken.
No, go ahead.
So part of what I've discussed with Mike as well is what has his communications with our volunteers looked like. I'm going to be sending out that sort of call for volunteers, and I really would like to continue doing it the way that Mike does it so that we see minimal interruption or disruption to our volunteers. I want them, I want it to seem as familiar as a process as they've been seeing up until this point. So that's the other part, is still leaning on our volunteers who are already working so hard and so dutifully to make sure that that space is an open and welcoming space to anyone who wishes to go up there.
Sounds like we're getting a plan together, so that's good.
We're doing it.
Awesome. One last thing, Mike, I just want to thank you for your service to the town for the past couple years here. Since I think this might be one of the last times we we see you in this type of forum, so I just want to thank you for all you did for the Grey Lock Glen and the Outdoor Center.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
That's all for me.
Okay, Joe?
If I'm correct, is June 26th the last day for applications for the new executive director?
Yes.
I'd like to know, as a selectman, will I be able to come up and take a look at the applicants?
I think so, yeah. I don't
Sure.
see why not.
Yep, just come
Okay.
ask me, I have them all.
Okay, and how many do you have so far?
8.
8, okay. I think that this is a good plan, but I don't, it's just, I think we gotta do it, I'm gonna vote for it. But my concern is that everything so far up at this Glen just, it's not rhyming to me for some reason. I don't know. I think you can do the job. I'm going to vote for you, but you know, you're very important being the administrative assistant. And I don't want burnout. And you have a young child, and that should be your focus right now.
Sure is.
And my thought is, on Fridays, what day did you say that you'll be out of the office?
I said I would not, if it were up to me and discussing
Right.
it with Mike, it would not be Mondays or Fridays because
Right, sure.
Mr. Walter
Yeah.
is not in the office, so I want to see minimal disruption
Yeah.
to having the town administrator's office open. So
Yeah.
in an ideal world, I would like to either see myself go up on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday
Yeah.
because that will allow for no office closures.
Yeah. Is there any way that, will you be taking calls the day that Bree isn't in the office, or will there just be an answering machine?
Typical Joe, I'll take calls, but if I'm overwhelmed, I let it go to voicemail, and then I check them out, and look
Okay.
for the important ones, yeah.
Yeah, is there any way that there could be a transfer of that call up to the Glen so that Bree could at least hear what's going on, even if she can't do what she needs to do? Because I think people that call the office should have a voice to hear an answer to their question. So is there a possibility that calls could be transferred the day that Bree is up at the Grey Lock Glen?
I don't, Mike, do you know, he knows the phone system up there, I don't know.
I don't believe off the top of my head that would be possible because the Glen's phone, the outdoor center's phone system is an independent
Right.
voice over IP phone, there's no connection, but I can check with Valley Communications before the end of the week.
I can actually shine a little light on this if I
Yeah.
may. So next fiscal year, part of what town hall is going to be hopefully doing is upgrading our phone system. We used to have the ability to forward any voicemails
Right.
that we got to our email, so then at least it would come through, I can listen to it on my computer and I can call the people back immediately. Our phone system is so outdated at this point that current email platforms don't support that function. They don't talk to each other anymore. So right now, Mike has it set up where his calls up at the Glen will forward to a voicemail folder in his email, and he has that. But unfortunately, with our town hall phones, we can't crisscross them. But it is actively a problem that we're working on solving and hopefully getting ourselves up to date. Because a few department heads have enjoyed that function. I know I've been out on vacation and certainly surfed through some voicemails in the past to get ahead of anything pressing.
Well, I'm one selectman that it's always been encouraged to advance our technology. And I know that we okayed it during our town meeting. So let's give me a rough estimate when that goal can be accomplished.
I'm not in charge of that project, I couldn't.
Okay.
Ashley has been working with Andre Technologies, who's our tech provider, as well as working with our phone system provider to see if Valley Communication will be the one to do that for us, or if we need to shop elsewhere, but she's taken on that project amongst several other things.
Yeah, my last statement is that I don't feel comfortable with the day when people call the administrative assistant or want to speak with the town administrator that there will be no answer.
I mean, Joe, right now, I monitor 4 different phone lines, and
Yeah.
sometimes there is no answer. If I have someone standing in my office, or if I'm on one of my other 3 or 4 phone lines, sometimes you will go to a voicemail. I always respond
Yeah.
day of, which I think is a really solid turnaround time. I always call people back the same day that they called me,
You know,
unless I'm not there.
Right, so if you're up at the Glen and you can't get the emails, you won't be able to call the same day?
Right, but it'd still be within 24 hours, I'd be back in the office.
Okay, okay. Fair enough, that's all I have.
Okay. All right, what is the board's pleasure?
I make a motion that we go with the recommendation for the interim coverage of event rental duties after Mike Wynn leaves us, and it goes to the executive secretary and the town manager.
Motion by Ann, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Jay, any further discussion?
Yeah, my last question is, when do you think the selection process for a new executive director will take after the 26th? Where will it go there to, what committee has been put together to look at the names and make the suggestions?
We haven't set up a committee yet, Joe, but I want to move as quickly as we can because I'm also a public works director, and
Right.
it's 2 jobs too many.
Yeah. So, as it stands now, we don't have a committee together?
And that's one of the things I have to talk with Don about, yeah. Don and I are kind of collaborating on how to do this.
Well, I suggest you get going, because it...
Yeah, you're right.
Okay. That's all I had.
May I just take a moment?
Sure.
Mike, I want to wish you good luck in whatever you're doing, and I was able to work with you up at the Glen as a volunteer, and I only can wish you the best.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, I wished you the best yesterday, and I saw you after the meeting, and best of luck to you.
Thank you, Joe.
Yep.
So we have a motion and a second on the floor?
We do.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, unanimous. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Yep, bye-bye.
Okay, next on the agenda is approval of townwide tag sale and request to reduce tag sale fee to $1 for Saturday, August 9th, 2025, from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Do a chair for a second. I'm going to recuse myself from this item, as I have a family member whose office is involved in
Okay.
this project.
All right. So the board has received a letter from the town clerk's office and the treasurer collector's office giving the details of this townwide tax. Oh no, it's a little different.
No, that's it.
Is it? Okay, townwide tax sale. And I mentioned the date, again, is August 9th, 2025, from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. So we've done this year after year. We thank both officers for doing this for us, but as I mentioned in the letter, maybe the last time they can do it, the town clerk and the treasurer collector, but we thank them for doing it this year. So what is the board's pleasure?
I'll make a motion, we approve the townwide tag sale and request to reduce tag sale fee to $1 for Saturday, August 9th at 2025 from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. with the deadline to make your registration July 18th, and the tag sale location would be Friday beginning August 1st.
Okay, motion by Ann, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Joe. And the maps of the tag sale locations will be provided beginning August 1st at local businesses, town hall, library, visitor center, Greylock Glen Outdoor Center, and on the town's website. Advertising will be provided. A letter will be sent to all participants confirming that they are registered and to take down any personal tag sale signage. Okay, I think we covered everything. Any further discussion?
Yes, I discussed this each year this has gone on, there's a lot of traffic during this period of time, and people are so eager to get to a tag sale, and cars have been parked on the wrong side of the road in the wrong direction, and it's something that I think has some potential for danger. So I just bring that up, and I like, to make that known to the police chief so that, the cruisers, when the police are on duty, they can, do the streets and see if things are done properly. And that's all I have.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, unanimous decision. Jay can return. The last item, G, under new business, are the annual appointments. The Board of Selectmen are responsible to appoint certain positions in the town. What I'll do is I'll go down through the list, and then we can vote all these together at once. And if you need to abstain from anything, you can say so at that point. And we've received several memos in the packet for the names that have been provided to us. So I'll just go down this list, and then we can take questions at the end. All right, annual appointments, one-year appointments expiring June 30th, 2026. The Americans with Disabilities Coordinator, which will be Kenneth Walto, Town Administrator. The Berkshire Regional Planning Committee, the delegate, who is required to be a member of the Planning Board. That person will be Michelle Picard. And the alternate has my name identified. I've done the alternate part of this for several years. The Berkshire Regional Transit Authority, Sarah Fontaine. Chief Procurement Officer, Kenneth Walto. Constables, Herman Bishop, Thomas A. Sacco. Council on Aging Board of Directors, Benjamin Akista, Thomas Dubus, Elizabeth Mock, Leona Nazawar, Elena Monchecki, Pamela St. John, William George Schrade III, Mary Whitman, and Barbara Zimba.
I'm going to abstain from voting on that one.
Okay. The Fair Housing Officer, Donna Season. Board of Survey, Brian Asepi. Fence Viewers, Susan Danault, Andrew Goyette, Timothy Zimba. Hazardous Waste Coordinator, Timothy Coda. Local Building Inspector, Mark Kruzel. Plumbing and Gas Inspector, this is a one-year appointment, Norman Rolnick, and Michael Leahy, Assistant. Measurer of Wood and Bark, one-year appointment, Bruce Dale Shepley. Mount Greylock Advisory Board, one-year appointment, Timothy Herman. Preservation Officer, Eugene Malenko. Right to Know Coordinator, one-year appointment. This is normally the Town Administrator. You gonna take that on, Mr. Wolf?
Absolutely.
We'll add Mr. Walto's name there. And that's 4. Senior Inspector of Lawyers, one-year appointment, David B. Reinmiller and Chad, who God knows I've said.
Wagonette.
Okay, Joe, you got Wagonette? Thank you. Chad Wagonette, Assistant. Special Police Officers, one-year appointment are David Dean, Scott McWhirr, Timothy C. Sorrell. The Traffic Commission, Timothy Coda, John F. Duvall, and I'll abstain from that vote. K. Scott Kelly, our Police Chief. Greg Ornato, Citizen. And Michelle Picard, the Planning Board. Tree Warden, Timothy Coda. The Trench Board, Timothy Coda, Jerry Garner, Tristan Fleury. Two-year appointment expiring June 30th, 2028 to the Northern Berkshire Solid Waste Management District, John Pitroff. 3-year appointments expiring June 30th, 2029. Agricultural Commission, Natasha Lee Bordeaux. Christina Sacco has indicated she does not want to be a member of the Agricultural Commission. So thank you, Christina, for your service. We'll have to put a word out for, there's an empty, position on the, Agricultural Commission for 3 years. Next is the Board of Appeals, Glendon B. Deal and Raymond Garvin Jr. Conservation Commission, David J. Lipinski, Stephen V. Melito. Historical Commission, Susan A. Dano and Eugene F. Malenko. Register of Voters, Julie A. Heritage. And finally, the Town Scholarship Committee, George H. Haddad, Harry A. Mezzanotte, Kelly F. Rice, Ashley Sacco, and Christina Sacco.
I will have to step back from that one.
Same here.
All right. Okay, so there's the list, and did we just have a question? We got several of these letters that says, we go through those. We have the special police officers went through those. The Board of Registers, Julie Heritage, yep. No, okay, election officers, would be poll workers later in the year. Then we have the Assistant Plumbing and Gas Inspector, which was in here, okay. Marcuso, okay, let's just checking all this stuff. Norman Warwick, yep, we had in there. Apologize, Bruce, should have done this beforehand.
No, it's all right.
Raymond Ronan for the, Board of Selectmen ratify appointment Raymond Ronan to the position of local building inspector. And we also had, the plumbing and gas, and we also have local building inspector Mark Cruzel, so we have two, right?
Yeah, I'm happy. So Jerry is hoping to have Mr. Ronan appointed as the assistant to Mark Cruzel. Due to some potential impending leave that Jerry may need to take, there could be a need to have an assistant to Mr. Cruzel. I apologize for not having Mr. Ronan on your agenda tonight, but Mr. Garner is happy if we take that up at a future meeting.
Yeah, let's take up the assistant to the building inspector, and that was for Mark Cruzel? Okay, that will take up.
Mr. Ronan.
Yeah, okay, and Ronan, okay. We will take that up at the next meeting. Go with Ryan Ronan, yes. Okay, this was good. Board of Survey, yep. And we had the constables, fence viewers. Okay. Okay, now so we have Julie Heritage for the Board of Register, yep, 3-year appointment. Yep, Register of Voters got that. And then the final one we have here is from Donna. All these were covered. Okay, so we can take all these at once. After the second is made, please indicate your abstentions. So what is the board's pleasure for this list of annual appointments?
I'll make a recommendation that we approve the annual appointments that we have read. I will abstain on the one for the Town Scholarship Committee as I have a family member on it.
Okay, this is a motion, right? Do we have a second?
I will second.
Okay, second by Jay. So Jay, you have,
And I have to abstain from the Council on Aging Board of Directors and the Town Scholarship Committee.
and I'm going to abstain from the Traffic Commission, citizen, family member. Anyone else? Small town kind of stuff, okay? All right, any other questions?
Yeah, just a few questions. Could you, I think I know, but could you let people know what the right to know law is?
You know, you're afraid you might ask me, that's right.
Yeah,
If I recall, it has to do with hazardous, storing hazardous materials by the town. That's my recollection, and I'm not 100% certain.
Could you get back to the
Yes,
board if it's
absolutely.
different than that?
Yeah.
you wanna make sure you know your many hats that you're wearing.
Go with my many heads.
Yeah. And, also, I know that, Tim Coda is our tree warden, and I noticed that he's given $19,000 each year for that duty. I know he doesn't get the money, but he may get it. I don't think he does. It's part of his job as the superintendent of building your grounds, or whatever his title is. And I was wondering, it said, like, trees and insects and pests. So, what does Tim do as far as insects and pests? Tell me a little bit how that works. And most of the money, I believe, would go to cutting down trees, am I correct?
Yes.
Get an outside contractor coming in to do that.
Cutting down trees.
Yeah.
I don't, and again, speaking out of my head a little bit here.
Yeah.
I don't think he's not doing any spraying or anything like that.
Right.
You may have to do something prior to taking a tree down, but basically, the tree warden deals with the street trees, not trees and parks, but the
Yeah.
trees planted along the sides of the road.
He doesn't do any tree warden work for town fields or anything that trees are there, like hazardous trees?
Probably does, but that would be part of the parks. But the tree warden's duties are limited to the rights of way in the community where trees are planted.
And I think that some of the money should, at least my thought is, go, instead of cutting down a lot of trees, to maybe purchase some trees. And I think there's ways of getting them at no cost. And I would like Tim to look into that. The state of Massachusetts has urban tree planting and that type of thing, because we've lost some trees. And I'd like to know, I was told just verbally that the electric company was gonna make some payback to us for what they did. I think you said something to me, I don't know if it was off the cuff, are there any plans for them to replant in places?
I think immediately they're gonna get us 4 trees. So if you have suggestions about where you'd like to see trees planted, let me know. And part of the tree warden's duty is planting trees. And
Yeah.
we're used to taking them down because they're old, mature trees,
Yeah.
but we should be planting trees too if we can find funds to do so.
Right, because the only tree I can remember ever planted was the Christmas tree. And I can't remember any others that were planted, by the town. And you see a lot of communities planting trees within the Commonwealth because they know the importance of, shade tolerance, they know the importance of climate change, sequestering and that type of thing. So, and see, I think I had one other question I had jotted down next to a name. I think it was David Reinmeller, and that, before I came to the meeting, and that was tabled for him to see if there'll be conflicts of interest, because I firmly believe that no one should have all the duties that he has, because, it just doesn't seem right to me, because they're intersecting. In other words, a lot of those things that he serves on are intersecting what he would be doing. And, David's a good guy, but I don't think that that's healthy for the community. And you're going to get a legal rendering for that?
Get advisory opinion from council.
Okay.
Okay. All right, with this approval, it also includes the removal of Christina Sacco from the Agricultural Commission. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, unanimous decision. And we have one announcement, the Juneteenth closures, town offices, including Town Hall, the Adams Council on Aging, the Adams Free Library, the Administrative Office at the Adams Police Department, and the Adams Transfer Station will be closed on Thursday, June 19th, for observation of the Juneteenth holiday. All that is left is a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Motion by Ann, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Jay. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None, unanimous. This meeting is concluded.